Owning a home. It's like the cornerstone of the American dream, right? Or at least it used to be.
Yeah, that whole work hard, buy a house, live the good life thing. It's feeling a little out of reach for a lot of people these days.
Absolutely. And that's what we're digging into today. We've got this article arguing that with these crazy interest rates and inflation making mortgages, like impossible for many, Bitcoin might actually be a more realistic life raft.
And it's not just about the numbers, it's that feeling, that anxiety of knowing you're doing everything right, you're saving, you're budgeting, and yet it still feels like you're being priced out of the future you were promised.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's like this whole idea of homeownership being this safe and stable investment, it's almost like a rug's been pulled out from under us.
It really is. Think about it. That starter home, that first rung on the property ladder. For a lot of people, especially young people just starting out, that rung is practically gone.
And even if you're not aiming for homeownership right now, rent's skyrocketing too. It's like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Exactly. It's this feeling of like being trapped in a system where the rules of the game keep changing and not in your favor.
All right, so Bitcoin. I gotta admit, even I had this knee-jerk reaction, right? Like, isn't that the thing teenagers on the internet are using to get rich off memes?
Oh, totally. The amount of times I've had to explain to my own family that no, I'm not going to turn their savings into Dogecoin overnight. But what I find interesting about this article and why we're diving into it is that it takes Bitcoin seriously, like as a legitimate asset.
Yeah, it's not about the whole get-rich-quick thing. It's framing it more as like a lifeboat in a storm. Since those traditional ways of building wealth are getting shaky.
Exactly. And one of the biggest things that keeps coming back to is this idea of scarcity.
Scarcity, like, there's not a lot of it.
Right. See, with normal money, governments can just print more whenever they want, which, as we're seeing now, can make your savings less and less valuable over time.
Inflation eating away at your buying power, yeah.
But with Bitcoin, they've got this hard limit built in, only 21 million coins ever. Nobody can change that, not even some tech genius in Silicon Valley.
So no matter what crazy stuff happens in the world, your Bitcoin won't just become worthless overnight because some government decided to print a few trillion extra bucks.
Precisely. It's like, remember we were talking about how hard it is to buy a house now because of inflation? Bitcoin's whole shtick is trying to be the opposite of that. It's designed to hold its value over the long term.
Huh. So it's kind of like digital gold then. People always say gold is safe because it's scarce.
That's a pretty good analogy, actually. And then there's this other aspect, this word gets thrown around a lot, but it's important, decentralization.
Decentralization. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. That one always sounds a little too techy for me.
I hear you. Think of it this way. With our bank accounts, our money is ultimately controlled by these big institutions,
The
right?
banks, the government, yeah.
Right. But Bitcoin, there's no one in charge. No CEO, no central bank. It just runs on this global network of computers all following the same rules.
So it's like,
Yeah.
even if you don't trust the banks or the government, you can still trust the system because it's not beholden to any one of them.
There you go. And that's really appealing to a lot of people, especially now when it feels like so much of our data, our privacy is in the hands of these big institutions. Bitcoin offers an alternative.
Okay, so Bitcoin is scarce, it's decentralized, sounds good on paper, but like, how's it actually held up in the real world? Has it really proven itself?
Right, because anyone can promise the moon. Right. But the article makes this interesting point about the inscription craze being like a real-world stress test for Bitcoin.
Inscription craze. I'm drawing a blank here, refresh my memory.
Basically, imagine like a bazillion people all deciding they want to put their like digital art, their NFTs, even just memes onto the Bitcoin blockchain all at once.
Oh, right. Right, I vaguely remember hearing about this. So it was just like too much activity overloaded the network or something.
Exactly. It was this massive influx of transactions, and some people thought, oh man, this is it. Bitcoin's going to break. But it didn't. It actually adapted and handled everything thrown at it, showed its resilience.
Like a champ. So it's not just this fragile thing. It can actually handle real-world use and even abuse.
Exactly. And it's not standing still either. The article mentions this thing called the Lightning Network. Might be a bit technical, but
Go for it. Enlighten me.
okay, so imagine paying for something, anything, with Bitcoin, but it goes through instantly, and the fees are tiny, like fractions of a penny.
That's it. That's like the dream. What's the catch?
No catch. That's what the Lightning Network is trying to do. It's like, think of it like adding a bunch of new lanes to the highway. Suddenly everything moves faster and smoother. It's still in development, but it shows how people are constantly working on making Bitcoin more usable every day.
So it's not just some abstract tech. There's real innovation happening all the time.
Yeah.
You know what else this article highlighted that I thought was really cool? It's the people, the community around Bitcoin.
Oh, absolutely. It's easy to forget about that when you're talking about, cryptography and blockchains, but at the end of the day, it's people who are passionate about this stuff. It's not just tech bros trying to get rich. There are regular people who see Bitcoin as a way to, I don't know, take back some control over their lives, their finances.
Yeah. The article mentioned these Why Are We Bullish events where people get together, talk about Bitcoin, share their stories, and wait, they do push-up challenges.
Yeah, I know, right? Not what you'd expect, but it shows this commitment, this we're in this for the long haul mentality.
That's wild. I love that. It gives it a whole other dimension. So we've bounced around from the struggles of buying a house in this crazy market to this whole new world of Bitcoin, scarcity, decentralization, resilience, push-up challenges.
Sounds like a typical Tuesday.
Right.
Yeah.
But seriously, the point of this deep dive wasn't to, convince everyone to run out and buy Bitcoin, but to explore why it's got people talking, why it's seen as a potential solution in a world where traditional solutions are faltering.
Exactly. It's about expanding our horizons, understanding there are other options out there.
And knowledge is power, right? The more you know, the better equipped you are to make smart choices for your own future.
Absolutely.
So, as you go about your day, think about this. If those old, reliable paths to financial security aren't so reliable anymore, what's your plan B?